This is heating up on social media and on campus. On the yard behind me, the university is silent so far about its official stance, but students have plenty to say, accusing neighboring residents of using the yard, which is the heartbeat of Howard University's campus, as an outdoor gym or place to walk their dog. In fact, we're told in recent weeks some students have taken matters into their own hands and confronted area residents they deemed to be disrespecting the campus. Fox 5 was out here on the yard and did not see any non-students on campus. In fact, the only dog walker we saw appeared to be a student. Howard University is a private school, although parts of its campus are intertwined with the district. Several neighborhoods surrounding Howard have undergone recent redevelopment, attracting new, wealthy residents. Residents and students say have shown disregard for the yard's historical significance.
The yard is for the students, and although everyone loves pets, I feel like it's disrespectful to have the pets just running around, especially when there are several parks around here. If they come on the yard and they're just walking through, I don't necessarily have a problem with that, but I still feel like there are other ways to get around DC without having to cut through a college campus.
They're in part of DC, so they have to work within DC. If they don't want to be within DC, then move the campus. I think we need to work together, and I don't think it should be a he or they or here. It's our community, and that's how it should be.
Again, Howard University is silent on the subject matter. In the meantime, Dr. Wayne Frederick, the president of Howard, was sharing history at the school today, talking about how the university was founded in 1867 and its first members were 4 women, and how the university embraces diversity. Back to you.
Okay, I have to give a shout out to Gab Talk Media because he was the first person I actually heard talk about this story. It was like earlier this morning, I think, when I saw it. But I didn't get the whole scope of it. At the time when I was watching, I was like getting ready to fall asleep. So I'll be surprised if I listen to the entire video. But shout out to him nonetheless, who he is also a DMV native. And VZ, the 1LVZ, if you're out there listening to the sound of my voice, I would definitely love your take on this because you live in DC. And anybody else who follows me who is a content creator who lives in the DMV area, I would like your take on this as well. Even if we got a collab on it, I would, like to know what you feel about this. But before I get into that, DC has been going through the gentrification period for quite some time now. When I would say back in 2000, they only had one train line, the red line. Those of you who are not from here, the train lines run based on color. You have the red, the blue, the green, yellow, orange, purple, not purple, they're about to get a purple, and a silver. And I think I said all of them in blue, if I didn't say blue. And like I said, at one time, the red line was the only line that they had. Then they started building more lines. When that happened, that's when gentrification was pretty much at its foundation. Because what was getting ready to happen was they were getting ready to have people who lived out in the suburbs who could not travel all the way in and out of the city without running into a lot of rush hour traffic come into the city by taking the metro. Then what ended up also happening is when they started building the National Stadium, which is the baseball team here, that's when it really started to show. Like putting a baseball stadium in DC was unheard of. Then they started putting a Walmart. There are 2 Walmarts right now currently in DC. A Walmart, a store that usually stands alone by itself in like a suburban area, is now in DC. 2 of them. And they also now have the soccer stadium, which is down the street from the National Stadium where the baseball team plays at. Because they used to play in Maryland, but they moved them to DC. And if y'all are not familiar, there was a residential area called Berry Farms, which was named after former DC mayor, or the people's mayor, Marion Barry. He built up those apartment complexes for low-income families, mostly who were black, to stay in. And it became a very popular place. I remember, riding past there, and every summer they would always have these basketball tournaments. Well, that's not going to happen anymore, because if you ride past Berry Farms now, it is completely evacuated. Whatever is not bulldozed over there right now is vacant. No one is living there. So Berry Farms is pretty much ceased to exist. And I would say this time next year, those apartment complexes will no longer be standing, and they're going to turn into high-rise condos. And speaking of high-rise condos, That's pretty much all they built up around the national stadium. Let's put it this way. 10 years ago, well, probably more than that now, maybe 15 years ago, none of that stuff that I'm talking about right now was present in DC. So we're talking about maybe like 2005 or maybe earlier than that. The stadium wasn't there. Excuse me. The soccer stadium wasn't there. The baseball stadium wasn't there. Berry Farms was still operating, and some other things were still present. And there's probably some other stuff going around in DC that wasn't there either, like those Walmarts weren't there as well. But now all of that stuff is there. And I remember seeing the Gentrified documentary that Jason Black did a couple years ago. And he said, if you see a Whole Foods, that's how you know that gentrification is coming your way. And guess what is built right next door or on the opposite side of that baseball stadium? A Whole Foods that is connected to these six-figure starting price condos that we know most black people cannot afford. We know who they built it for. We know that. They even got bike lanes now. You know those bike lanes, those small bike lanes that has the bike in the lane to let you know it's a bike lane. They got those now. Riding through areas that most white people would not even frequent maybe 20 years ago. Back then, you would not see a white person cross over into Anacostia. Now, you probably will. Not that many yet. They're present, but give it some time and you'll see a sea of them over there. Most white people were regulated to the Georgetown area of DC. Now they're everywhere. DC used to be referred to as Chocolate City. Now it's more like Swirl City, not because of interracial relationships, but because of what the demographic of it looks like. The most white people you ever saw downtown DC were usually during the week when they had to go to work. After that, you really never saw them. And when you did see them, a lot of them were tourists, so they were probably from out of town. So they came down to see the monuments and stuff, or the museums. Now, most of them are residents of DC. But that segues into this right here. Howard University, one of the most prestigious HBCUs in America. I often call it as like the Ivy League version of an HBCU because a lot of the prominent people went there, so it actually looks good on the resume. So you have the campus, and I've been on the campus of Howard. Howard is a pretty big campus for an HBCU. And for it to sit in DC, that's saying something. And like I said, I've been on their yard and everything like that, you know, just walking around or whatever. And the nerve of these gentrifiers, these invaders, to come in and walk their dog where their dog could just shit anywhere, and they most likely won't clean it up, where they come out there and they exercise. And they're none of them are students there. They're not enrolled to be at the school. So that means that technically they're trespassing, but they do not adhere to those rules. But I bet you a black person who was not enrolled at GW, which is George Washington University, could not go on their campus and walk their dog around and let it shit all over the damn yard, or go out and pull out a yoga mat and start stretching right there in the middle of the yard, and they didn't go there. But one thing I gotta address is that damn palm-colored Neander piece of shit in the video that y'all didn't see, but you heard the audio. He said that, well, it's kind of central, so everybody should be able to use it, and if they don't like it, they can move the campus. See, this is the so-called high IQ that we got to deal with right here. We can tell he spoke out of emotion because there's no way he could have logically thought that. How in the hell do you move a fucking campus? How do you do that? Like, are you going to come in with a wrecking? No, let me not give that person any ideas because they just might actually do it. He said if they have a problem with it, move the campus. Like they said, Howard University has been there since 1867. This guy was probably only there for maybe the last, I would say, couple of years. Which means this college predates your ass as far as a residence goes. So because he's upset that the students who go to Howard are upset that these outsiders are coming in to the campus to walk their dogs, let their dogs do anything, pull out yoga mats and watch them stretch and exercise and whatnot. He's mad about that and saying that they need to move the campus. Somebody please help me make that make sense. And like one of the students said in the video, they have plenty of dog walking areas or dog parks or parks period that they can go to that are open to the public. Howard University is a private institution like most HBCUs. Which actually makes me have to go back and retract the statement that I said. If a black person wanted to go and walk their dog on a PWI, they probably could, because most PWIs are public. And see, that's the thing. They think that they can do anything they want anywhere they go. But this is the effects of gentrification happening right before your eyes. I remember when I did a video about New York, where you had this white lady went and called the police because she had a noise complaint. Guess what the noise complaint was? She was complaining about the noise coming from the church around the block from her, or down the street, wherever it was, because she said they were too loud. Guess what they were doing? The choir was having rehearsals. It was hot and they decided to let the door stay open. Nobody else had a complaint up until she moved her raggedy old ass in the area. This is the effects of gentrification right here, because now we have to deal with their level of comfort, which usually is very low. Very, very, very low. So their comfort is seeing us be uncomfortable in hopes that we leave so they can get the upper hand. Basically, gentrification is making palm color be comfortable. That's really all it is. I also call it white flight in reverse. Because white flight meant that they left out of this area because black people were moving in, but now they want to move back in by kicking black people out and putting them in there and basically switching places. Most of the people who live in DC don't even live there anymore. They had to move to Maryland. Well, most of the black people anyway. Because they're not going to move into VA, because VA is expensive as hell. And VA is mostly white people there anyway. So they put them in the next blackest part, which is in PG County, which is the county I live in. The nerve, the divine nerve of these fools. But the way that he said it, though, if y'all saw the video, the way that he said it, he said, well, if they don't like it, then they could just move the campus. And he kind of shook his head and did one of those white people smiles that I cannot stand when they do that shit. It just reeks of arrogance. And it's one of those faces that makes you want to punch them dead in their goddamn throat. Knock that shit right off of their face. And then basically he also tried to come back and say, oh, well, this campus was built in DC, so it's not just your campus, but it belongs to everybody. No, it does not belong to everybody. You don't go there. You don't pay to go there. That is not your campus. Like, they must think we woke up with the word stupid written across our goddamn forehead. They feel that anywhere that they put their feet at belongs to them. They walk up in your house. Guess what? It no longer is your house. You can still pay the bills and the mortgage and the rent and whatever has to be paid for, but now that house belongs to theirs. Oh, they'll sit in your car, but guess what? That car no longer belongs to you. You can still pay for the car note and the upkeep, but the car belongs to them. You let them borrow your cell phone. The cell phone is no longer yours, but you can still pay the bill. And anything that is additional added on charges, that will be coming to you. That's the same scenario here. He thinks he can go up on their campus and walk his dog and let it do its thing all over the damn campus without having to pay to have gone there or is enrolled as a student. These kids and their parents pay thousands of dollars to go to this campus, to go to this school to get an education and to lounge wherever they please because they paid for it. Or they got a scholarship that paid for it or a grant that paid for it. All you do is live down the goddamn street and walk your fucking dog. And you feel that gives you privilege and entitlement to walk onto that campus and do what you want because you live down the street and it's in a neighboring area? Get the fuck out of here. I didn't even mean to get this pissed, but the shit is as not so surprising as it is, and it's not. It should always get like it. For us as black people, we could never stay in one place. We always had to move around and not be able to adjust because their comfort level could not deal with it. I also remember seeing a video also in New York where it was two white guys going at it, and one guy actually spilled the beans of what he really was. He says, what did he say? He didn't say invader. He says something, but it was on the same lines of invading and talking about how he moved there. Basically, he tried to claim the whole damn block and he just moved there. That's the arrogance I'm talking about. You just got there. Some of them students probably were already there as students enrolled there before you even moved. It shouldn't have to even be a sign that has to be put up outside of the campus saying, look, if you do not attend this campus, do not bring your dog onto the campus grounds. They shouldn't have to do that. They might have to do that, but guess what? That's not going to stop them from continuing to do it because of that level of arrogance and privilege that they have. Because they know they're untouchable. See, if one of them students got mad and they got into it, like in a physical way, they would take up his side and not the students, and he doesn't even go there, but the student does. And technically, that guy's trespassing, but they would overlook that and throw assault charges on the student that him and his parents pay thousands of dollars a year to go to that school. That's the thing that pisses me off about the gentrification thing. It's the level of arrogance, and it's so sad that it's so many black people out here who are not aware of what the hell is going on with this gentrification. They are pushing you out. I suggest if you have not watched Gentrified by Jason Black, you do yourself a grand ass favor and you turn off whatever the hell you're listening to after you watch this video, of course, and go and watch that documentary because it is so eye-opening. And that documentary came out 2 years ago in 2017. And everything that he said in that video has happened then and it's happening now. I think I've gotten out everything that I needed to say. Y'all let me know what y'all think about this down in the comments, and I will talk to you in the next one.